Great, thank you very much. OSHA Meserve had a comment but was unable to be here. She's given her proxy to Councilman Natoli.
Well, I don't know if it was proxy. I had a chance to talk with her, and it actually related to the discussion earlier this morning and this afternoon related to the Interagency Implementation Committee. And I think her point, had she been here, was that is there room, and there should be a place at the table for local agencies with regards to that, whether it was high-level folks or otherwise, and that and I know Leanne mentioned that in her comments on behalf of certainly Sacramento County, and I heard a lot of discussion with our second panel about that. Maybe that was intended that was going to be state and federal agencies, but I think local agencies have a role, a very important role in the overall, and so I think, again, that's what she would have spoken to. She said she may submit some written comments as well, and I don't know if there's somebody maybe could, if you could respond, or Dan can so note it, and he and Cindy, but I just think it's an important piece of what we talk about. I think going forward, having the full amalgamation of folks that are engaged in this, particularly on the public sector side of this, that local aspect is very, very important in the conversations where people are making decisions that reflect not only on the Delta, on water, on ecosystem restoration, but certainly have impact on the local footprint, wherever that might be, relative to geography and certainly to those communities and to the Delta. So,
Chris, maybe you could respond to share with us how the locals would be involved at the implementation level.
There's a couple of ways that that could occur. There's sort of two issues involved here. One is how would issues be raised to the implementation committee, and the other is how would locals be involved. And the work groups specifically are the place where the involvement is going to occur. Now, the work groups are going to be chartered by the implementation committee with very specific tasks, timelines, problem statements, desired outcomes. And that'll be then, I'm not exactly sure how it'll be determined who gets on the committee, how that works. That's yet to be determined. But that's where we envision the primary interaction with whoever else wants to be involved in the process.
But there's nothing that precludes, at least from the way the legislation is interpreted, from the actual implementation committee having local representation on that committee. I heard your response about the work groups and where certain efforts will be, but the actual implementation committee, is that called out for in statute as to who gets to be on there and who not?
A little bit. To some degree, what's called for is that the agencies be represented on that group. And so when you're looking at how would counties, for example, be represented, since they're not, by the definition, an agency, it was thought that the Delta Protection Commission would provide that voice. And whether that is going to survive through our design and our discretion in how to design that remains to be seen, I think. Dan, did you have something you'd like to add?
Follow up. That's exactly how we thought about it, at least when the Delta Plan was drafted, that the law says it's the agencies that are responsible for implementing the Delta Plan. And so we were looking for those also that had like a primary responsibility. There's many agencies that play a role. We couldn't get a room big enough for all of them. And we've taken to heart the instruction in the Delta Reform Act that the Protection Commission is, one of its functions is to be the voice of the Delta. And so we had to emphasize their role as the representative of the counties and the other local agencies that make up the Protection Commission's board, as a way to bring that local input to the implementation committee itself. Certainly both water agencies and local governments have asked, well, what about us? And I think it partly depends on how the roles they actually play in implementing the Delta Plan. I think we're trying to, part of the CBDA experience was having an oversight committee that was so big, it was difficult to have them work effectively together. So we're trying to avoid that and really have agencies whose job it is to get the plan implemented, not just have it be a confab for discussion.
And I appreciate that. I know we've had this conversation, at least in part, as we developed a plan. I guess just as you've kind of outlined that that the DPC might be looked to as being one of those where it would serve, I assume it would have a seat. And so I think that may be part of the solution, is that if that trying to have a workable number and certainly have the satisfactory representation that would meet at least the not only the intent, but hopefully the cross-section of folks that are going to be implementing Delta Plan, it may be that you have a delegated seat. It wouldn't be all of whoever, but I mean, so that may be one way to address it too. So again, we're not going to sell that today, but that's what OSHA's talked to me about. And I want to be sure that got on the record this afternoon. So
And I think we've seen that the DPC's representative has been so effective here at the council that we realize that probably a whole suite of agencies could be held at bay by their representative on the implementation
otherwise
committee.
we wouldn't have any of us to come back, I'm sure. So. Thank you, Dan.
Okay, next and final.